Hey YouTube, Joshua the window cleaner here with another Friday night giveaway night. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Jim Mclaughlin here tonight, my business coach. How are you tonight, Jim?
Fantastic. Never better.
Well, it's
How are
actually,
you?
I'm good. It's actually daytime, but it's nighttime when y'all are watching this, so it might feel a little bit weird. But anyway, so we're gonna get into a little bit of Jim's journey tonight on being a business coach and how he got started in that, and a leadership coach because he does, I guess, kind of both of that. I think he's like changed over from business coach to leadership coach because he kind of helps out groups and employees as well. So he's worked with many business owners in my area and has really made an impact on our community the past 15 years and really made a huge impact on me in my life the past 3 years as my personal business coach. But before we do that, let's go ahead and spin that prize wheel for everybody. We do a prize wheel at the beginning and the end of the show. So this prize wheel is from Window Magic Supply, and this prize wheel will choose a tool, and you just got to answer that question right above the prize wheel as quickly as possible in the comments to win. All right, let's go ahead and spin that first prize wheel. All right, congratulations to the third person to answer Pool X correctly. You have won the Sorbo Ultra 45 degree 14-inch squeegee with a t-shirt. And I also have Window Magic Supply sending me some more t-shirts, some more stuff like that. They said that they're having a shortage on the t-shirts, so they might be sending other stuff that I can send with the prizes. We're going to try to beef up the prizes a little bit to make shipping worth it. I know shipping has been a little bit expensive, but yeah, so congratulations to the third person. Who do you see in the comments right now that answered that correctly? Please put it in the comments right now. Who do you see the third person that answered Pool X correctly? Whoever that is, make sure to email me at joshuathewindowcleaner@gmail.com. Email me your address to redeem your prize. Otherwise, I can't ship it to you if I do not have your address. So make sure to send that to me as soon as possible. All right, Jim, let's go ahead and get into it. How did you get to where you are right now, and how did you become the best business coach in Southern California?
Wow. Well, I think the jury might still be out on that one, but thank you. I appreciate that, and I'll do my best to live up to that expectation. Wow. How did I get here? That's a really good question. A big part of it. I had no idea I'd end up here. Is one way of putting that. And what I mean by that is, I started out in life, went into the sort of the corporate world, as they say, got a job, went to work for another company because that's kind of the path that I thought that you were supposed to follow, right? I didn't end up in, I guess, surrounded by people that started their own business. I was, and part of it was, I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to be a doctor initially. So I knew I was
Okay.
going to go to college and all that. But to cut to the chase, there were several times in my life where things just didn't go the way I wanted them to go. And, from losing jobs to a divorce to losing another job. And so a big part of how I got to be where I am and how I got into coaching was recovering from all of those, U-turns, right turns, falling off the cliff, all of those times where I really had to rethink what my life was going to be about, or, in more common language, what am I going to do now? What next? Right. And then the process of reinventing, rediscovering, identifying what I wanted to do from where I was, and licking my wounds and growing from that process. So the person I am today is a product of, you might say all the failures or all the breakdowns that I've had along the way, and what I've learned throughout that process, and it got me to a point where I want to help other people, particularly people in business, because I became very fascinated with the business world. I mean, we spend so much of our time and energy and our focus on what we do for a living, whether we're employed or whether we're having our own business. That's such a big part of our lives, and if that's not going well, if we're not able to, sort of fully realize ourselves or find ourselves or make the contribution that we want to make, however we think about that, or just make the money that we want to make is a big part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we make that in service to other people. So it really was a matter of, falling down, picking myself up, and then ultimately finding an organization that help businesses do this. So I joined that organization about 13 years ago, and just started, engaging with business owners and helping to support them in, like I said, making the contribution, getting over the challenges that they face, because at this point, I've kind of almost seen it all, right? And in the work that I've done with business owners, I've seen a lot of the commonalities that they deal with in growing their business and getting to that next level, in dealing with the difficulties that it is. Because let's face it, to be a business owner is to have a big problem to solve day after day after day. And the more tools, the more adaptable you are to the unexpected, the better time you're going to have of it.
Yeah, that's so true. Definitely, I like what you said about that. That's pretty cool. The tools you have, you're gonna you're gonna run into the unexpected, and if you have those tools, then you have a lot better chance at getting those. I remember when Robert kind of first started, he would tell me sometimes he'd be like, "We're not gonna be able to get to this window," and then I would show up there and I'd be like, "They called us because they can't get to that window. We are the guy that's gonna get to that window, so we have to figure out that solution." And so I try to provide a lot of a lot of different tools, whatnots here and there to make sure that we can get to those different points. But and you also got to pour into people. I like how you said that too. That you really got to invest into people, and you found it really cool and interesting. Businesses and how businesses tick and how they run and everything like that. And your systems definitely work because they've helped me grow. I'm pretty sure I didn't have not even one employee. No, I did have an employee actually. I had
That's right.
I, I had a, I had a secretary
You had
that
Hannah, yeah.
yeah, and I ended up having to let her go, and that was something I had to get
Mm,
through as well. Which is kind of something you had brought up pretty much at the beginning of our coaching that was probably going to happen just because you seen what was going on, and it was really cool that I got to go through that with you, and that was like my turning point I think with my
mm,
business because like I was telling you when I first signed up, man, I'm freaking out all the time because I don't know what I'm doing. Like I know that I can show up and do the job and do the work, but all the other stuff is like, of course, getting licensed, bonded, and insured, I can figure all that out. But it's the mental part of like, okay, now I got to grow this thing. And I had tried, temp help and hiring people, and I was burning through people. I think when I started, I told you, I said I'm starting this because I've fired 18 people and I can't keep employees, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I think the big problem that I was having was I was being too much their friend and not their boss.
hmm
And that's what I learned, And then when they're running over me, it's like, what do I expect, And then oh, now I want to be a boss. So those are things that I had to learn and some of the turns that I had to take myself in my business. And you definitely helped me out with that. But yeah, that's an awesome story, Jim. I appreciate you sharing your story. Now I want to talk about some of the key moments where my thinking shifted, kind of like what I was just talking about, and maybe you can explain how it works. So starting out, I did the 6 month program, like we were just talking about, and looking into my past and into my future, and I had to write out my past and then also write out my future and how I was going to get to my future. So then you made me start at my future and then work my way back, and that was really interesting, and that was something that changed and transformed my way of thinking. So can you explain a little bit more of how that works and what that is, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, it's great. When I start working with somebody, I determine, I work with them initially to find out, what are the areas that you want to grow in or grow your business in. And for some, it's their own growth. In fact, that's really a big part of it is, you know, we, we grow up, we learn, we educate ourselves, we fall down and learn things about ourselves. And we become kind of set in the way that we think in the way that we think about things, and we don't know that we do that. We just go through life like this is kind of the way things are. This is the way life is. This is the way that I am. And often that kind of often all the time that kind of thinking sets limits on what we can experience or what we can try, what we can attempt. You gave the story about Robert. It's like, well, we can't get to that window. Well, actually, there's a possibility that we can.
Yeah.
So applying that to what we want to have happen in our lives is a critical aspect of that. So I'm sure everybody's heard about, creating a vision for yourself, that kind of a thing. And that's an exercise in what's the kind of future that I want to have. What is going to have me feel fulfilled and satisfied and beyond, wealth is part of that, right? Like internal wealth, and of course the wealth to pay the bills, the wealth to be able to contribute to the community, the wealth to experience whatever kind of life that we want to have. So part of it is, you mentioned the past and the future. Part of it is, what is that future that I want to create? And we have this sense that life is, we're kind of like going along for the ride sometimes, right? Like life is happening and we're adapting to it. Well, there's another way of thinking about it, is that I'm creating my life as I go along. And, that actually I can be in the driver's seat of life from time to time, and maybe all the time. And where am I not in the driver's seat? Or where am I letting my past, referencing the past, where am I letting what happened determine what I can do or what I could do, even my options, right? Like sometimes there's no options. We just can't do it. We can't reach that window. I can't get to that goal. You mentioned your first employee of, let's say your first 18 employees, and you found that you were spending more time being their friend, and maybe you weren't even aware of that. It was just kind of what you thought was the right thing to do. And then, they walk all over you or whatever happens, and then they leave, and wow, now I'm left without an employee anymore. Something about my approach isn't working
Yeah.
anymore. What is that? And that's really where the coaching comes in. It's being able to step outside of that or be outside of that and go, well, maybe it's this, or have you thought about that? And it's not just advice. The kind of questions I ask are designed to open up your thinking in that particular area, so that new possibilities can emerge. So, we grow up, we learn, and we learn from our parents, from our teachers, from our own life experiences, from our culture, and that becomes our resource. But what's even a greater resource is, well, what's the future that I could have, that I might want to have, and being able to let go of the things from our past that free our ability up to give us power and options in able to make that future come to life. I remember one of the things that you said early on that you were really great about letting go of. You would say I would give you a suggestion or an assignment, and you would say, "Well, I'll try." And every time I hear that word, really from anybody, there is no trying.
Yeah.
There's a quote from Star Wars that
Yeah.
you may have heard. Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah.
When he's coaching Luke Skywalker there, and this was made clear to me when somebody did a demonstration of try to do something, and if you think about it for yourself, what does trying actually look like? There is no action called try. You're either going to do it or you're not, right? Hence the Yoda phrase. You're either
Yeah.
going to take the action or not. You may not succeed at it, and that's one thing, but any result in life comes from some action that you take, right? You want something to happen, you have to take some action. So you're either going to do it or you're not. And you were really good about letting that go pretty quickly. I think after about 3 sessions, you got tired of me saying it. No
Yeah.
pass, no pass. You're either going to commit to doing it right? Yes, I am going to do it, and I'm going to do it on this day at this particular time, right? That's the integrity part of it. Is it's
Yep.
going to happen, and this, and again, you're going to either, I don't even like the word failure, right? You're either going to get the result you want, or you're going to get some other result, and based upon that, then you choose the next course of action. You choose
Yeah.
the next pathway, and what did you learn from the failure? Is like, oh, okay, well, I learned. This comes from Thomas Edison. I learned one more way not to make the light bulb.
That's
And
it.
somebody asked him, what does it feel like to fail 1,000 times at making a light bulb? Well, I just learned one more way not to make it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a mindset shift right there. It's a classic mindset shift. And when you do that, I mean, it changes the whole game,
Yep.
right? By changing the language of it, changing how I look at that particular thing. When I look at it like one more way not to do it, it's like, oh, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So I hope that answered your
Oh
question.
yeah, no, it definitely did, and thinking about that is going to bring me to what we're going to talk about here in a little bit about getting complete with some things,
Right.
because I definitely had to get complete with some things, and yeah, it was like it really made me start thinking about, well, I can say I'm going to try to do this, I'm going to try to do that, but you know, that's just talk. You know what I mean? It's
I
either
mean,
it's
yeah,
like you
I
said,
mean,
it's
look at that.
action.
Look
You
at that
know?
very word. It's got failure built into it, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
try means I probably won't succeed,
yeah,
but I'll try. I
yeah.
mean, it's just
I'll,
yeah,
I'll put
yeah,
some effort and maybe more than likely fail.
yeah. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah. You got to just do it, and then you just
Yeah,
gotta, and that was the thing too. And then be patient about it too, and just kind of like planting a seed. When you plant a seed, you got to wait on that thing to grow. It don't just grow overnight and you just all good. Like you want to, or it dies quick. If it does, if you can get it to grow really fast, it'll die really quick. So you want it to like slowly grow into a big beautiful tree. And it's like I really shifted my mindset, and it was something that I always remembered the first session that we had, what you said to me, and you said that, are you coachable?
mm,
Like, you have to be coachable. You can tell me all these things and spend the time to do all this stuff, and I can pay for it and do all these things, but if I'm not willing to open my mind up to being wrong and being able to push my past backwards and being able to get complete and stand on that I'm complete with all these different things, that it's a total shift in your paradigm. You know what I mean? Like it really is, and that's what I learned from you, and the language of everything,
mm,
because I think that was super crucial for me, and turning into thinking like, okay, it's all language up here, talking to myself, and I just need to figure out how to have that right language, and then also you need a language for your employees, and all these different paths that you go down, they're all different languages of how you are, and who you are, and then another thing you helped me with was, always coming back to who I am, and not, focusing too much on a failure. Like that failure does not make me who I am. I just keep going and being who I am and sticking to that, and not letting a failure or something traumatic happening in my life determine the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And I'm just stuck on that one day over and over and over again. It made it a lot easier to get over things, because it's now I want to get complete with things. And I know we're going to talk about that in a minute. We keep talking about it, but just seeing that transformation, I mean, you've really seen a lot, because since I started, with you, I got Melissa, and I got Robert first, and then you helped me with Robert, and then you helped me with Robert big time. Robert was super quiet and everything, and we put Robert through the leadership program that you have, and he kind of took the same course that I did, and so did Melissa, and it's just a game changer. And it's like I told them, whenever I told them I was signing them up for your class, I told them, I said, I don't want you to think I'm trying to change who you are, because
mm,
that's not the goal. The goal is to make your job easier, to make your mindset easier to deal with your job on a day-to-day basis, because I don't want to change who you are. Who you are is who you are. I don't want to change that. But if this helps you with your job, and this helps it make your day go by easier, and where you love to do what you do, then definitely, you know what I mean? Because it made me love what I do more. It made me appreciate the phone ringing. I remember that was another thing we had talked about. I told you, I was like, I get so mad at the phone. I was like so frustrated, because I'd be trying to clean a window, and I'd be like, I don't want to answer the phone. Like, stop calling me. But but it's like, if somebody didn't call me, I wouldn't be standing there cleaning windows, and so, then for a while, when the phone would ring, all I heard was you telling me, be happy about the phone ringing. Like be like you have been waiting on them to call. And literally, whenever I shifted my mind and that language in my head when somebody called was like, "Oh, they're calling. No, wait, it's okay. Like you need to be thankful. You've been waiting on them to call. Like you're so thankful for them to call." And then when I answer, it's a totally different world. Like you know what I mean. And you're able to just listen what they're saying, and so I would just keep working. And but
Brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant.
So you really did help me out a lot with that. But what was that like, seeing that transformation in me?
Oh wow. Well, I mean, look where you are right now.
I know. This was one of the things that was on my. I wanted to do a YouTube channel and help people, and this was one of the things. So it's funny how it turned out because all the little goals that I was setting and talking to you about every month, and how I wanted to do the show, and how I mean it's funny. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees like that. That was actually a goal for me. I wanted to reach out to window cleaners and help them. Like it was just a thing I wanted to do, and it was one of the goals on there. So yeah. So what was it like on your end though, seeing
Yeah,
all that?
it's just so gratifying to see somebody, you know, move something aside. I mean, that's what this work really is about. Well, it's about a lot of different things. And it's, you mentioned language, but consider that many of our barriers are our language, things that we say, the chatter in our head. I can't do that. I can't reach that window, right? It's just statements that we say about the way things are, the way I am, the way life is, the way other people are, the way customers are, the way this person is, the way that person is. And it just locks everything in place. And so when, just to watch you set pieces aside, right? Because when you remove a barrier to progress, you naturally move forward, right? And I mean, there's so much in what you just shared. I want to I want to touch on, but just to get to that point, it's we say things, we think things, and it's not even like we're conscious of them. We're conscious that we're thinking them. It's just the way it is,
Yep.
right?
And that's the way
And
it becomes.
yeah, and so the process really is exposing that language, right? What is it that you're thinking about this situation or that situation? And can you see by stating it that way, by relating to it that way, can you see why you're stuck,
Yep.
right? Can you see why every time the phone rings you're upset? Can you see how that would impact, people that are calling, right? You answer the phone and what's already there is you're mad,
That
right? Do
they're
you think
calling.
that, if they're maybe on the fence, which way do you think you just pushed them? Right? Now, it's not that, and you could even still have that experience, right? Like a reaction, because look, we're human
Yeah.
beings, right? That's a big part of it. We're human beings. We're wired to react to things, right? It's a survival skill. If there's a wrestling going on in the bushes over there, you better pay attention to it because it might be a lion. It might kill you. So you got to
Yeah.
react, right?
Yeah.
It's just part. And then we can like grab hold of ourselves and go, wait a minute, let me take that old language, right? Of
Right.
like, the phone, right? And just change it into opportunity calling, or
Yeah.
whatever you create in that situation. Or this is what it looks like growing my business. I'm on a ladder with a squeegee and the phone rings. This is what it looks like to grow my business,
Yeah.
right? And then, all right, well, okay, what do I want to do about that? Well, I hire somebody so I don't have to be on the ladder when the phone rings, right? Or whatever
Exactly.
that next step is.
Yep.
So, it's enormously gratifying to see like what you've been able to accomplish, right? I mean, that's the payoff for me,
Yep.
right? And, I'm glad you brought up the coachability part because not too many of my clients bring that part up about how valuable that is, which really reinforces me bringing that concept into the conversation more because it's been my experience that most people are coachable, but but letting them digest that for themselves might allow them to get something out of the way. And I just now thinking about this might allow them to get something out of the way that, if they said, oh, I know that there are times in life where I haven't been coachable. And, if you're in a relationship, right? Sometimes the last thing you want to do is try and coach your partner because they may not be open to it.
Yeah.
Right. And, this in my business, don't coach your spouse unless they request it. It won't go well.
I didn't think about that. That would be a hard thing to battle with being a business coach at home. Like,
Well, here's my language. My wife is always right.
that's it.
No, and the truth is, she is.
Yeah, most of the time really is.
And if she's not, I can probably let it go.
Yeah, it's probably not
It's
that
not that
serious.
important to be right.
Yeah, we're supposed to be understanding and loving. That's it.
It's so true, that, I read somewhere that, love is everywhere. That we just put up barriers to experiencing it. And that's just a change in language, right? And
Yep.
I thought, wow. So anywhere that I'm not feeling it, right? In love, you can, I love you, Josh. Right? There's love
I
between
love you
us, right?
too.
And then there's romantic love and all the other different
Yeah.
kinds of love. If that's not our experience, whatever the magnitude, like there's just something missing in life, right? And
Yep.
so let's find out what that is and get that out of the way. And just, maybe it's just bliss, right? Or contentment. That's a much better place than the anxiety or the
Right.
fear.
Yes, exactly. And it starts with that language in your head. Like I'm telling you, that's like a game changer. And then being consistent too. Like I wrote down here another thing that shifted my thinking was completing that program. That 6 month program, and I didn't want it to end. I remember I went in for the last session, had no idea. You did not tell me it was going to be my last session.
Let's say you didn't hear that I told you it was the last.
Okay, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't hear, and so I went into it thinking like I still have at least another month or two of these classes, and so I went into it, and then it was like at the end of the session, you were like, "That's it," and I'm like, "What? What do you mean that's it? Like
Yeah,
that
and
can't be
actually,
it."
I'm gonna take that back because I can own that you didn't hear it,
Yeah,
because as the person communicating, and this is a pro tip, right?
yeah,
As the person communicating, it's your responsibility to make sure your message is heard.
yeah. That's okay
It's
though. I've missed a
it's
lot of things.
no, I'm just offering this up because
Yeah,
it's a really good lesson, right?
yeah,
Like you tell somebody to do something, if they didn't do it, it's not because they didn't hear you,
yeah,
right? It's because you didn't get them, like you could take responsibility for it and say, it's my responsibility as the owner of my business to make sure, or to assure that my employees understand exactly what it is that I want them to do, and there's no doubt.
yeah,
Right? Just, well, I told you to do that, and they didn't do it. It's just a natural tendency that they're wrong or they're stupid or whatever shorthand explanation
yeah,
it is, because it's easier,
yeah,
right, than actually looking at, oh, what did I have to do with it? What am I responsible for? What could I be responsible for? And I was like, well, maybe I was too brief. Maybe I was mad and they were scared to say I don't understand.
yeah,
Because, as an employee, probably the last thing you want to say is I don't understand. You don't
yeah,
want to look stupid,
yeah.
right? And knowing that, might actually give you, the little edge that you need to have them perform at a higher level.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely little talks like that have helped me be able to communicate with my employees better for sure. You know?
It's really not that hard. I
Yeah.
mean, it's you got to be willing, you got to be coachable, but you got to be willing to look. You got to be willing to discover what it is about the way that you're dealing with your business, dealing with people, dealing with whatever it is, or a task, right? And just be willing to look and consider that there might be another way to look at this. There might be, there's just bringing that to it. There, just that question, because sometimes we don't even know to ask that question. Again, it's just the way it is, and we don't challenge the way things are. We don't challenge our reality, put it that way, on a regular basis. And when we're stuck or we're up against something, that's exactly the time to do that kind of thing. It's like there's something about this that just ain't right. It must be the way that I'm looking at it, the way I'm thinking about it.
Yep. And I write those things down because that happens very frequent with me, and that's why I like being able to have our session every month, is because I can write down these things and then go over them with you and be like, "Hey Jim, like, what do you think about this, man? This is kind of what I'm going through. I wrote these things down. This is another thing that's just been bothering me for some reason. It was because we're all humans. We're all going through these things, and so you had definitely helped me be able to kind of ease my mind a little bit about everything I'm going through and just be like, hey, you got to get complete with these things. And just being able to change that language is very impactful on my life. And like you said, it's like every time I get through those things, I bust down a barrier and I grow, and then I run into another one. And so being consistent with having the sessions every month has totally been a game changer, because here we are 2 years later from doing the coaching. Now you coach Melissa and Robert as well, and they both tell me the same thing. This really helps me in my personal life and for the business, and I can tell the change in them. They're definitely more understanding with me because I tell them, like I'm only 31 years old, and I'm still learning a lot. You know what I mean? And I appreciate them being on the journey with me and being team members. You know, because that's what I tell them. I'm not above y'all. Like it just so happened that God placed me to be your boss, and that's just this is how it worked out. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I didn't even wasn't even really intentional, but we can't. I can't do this without you guys. You know, like y'all are part of my team. You know, we have this culture about us, and we're all in understanding, and we run very efficient because of all those things. But a lot of it had to do with the language, you know, and
Yeah.
with Melissa, I think right now I see her going through the being complete, you know. And she's talking about it all the time. Like I'm complete with it, and she'll text me at the end of the day and say I'm complete with today when it's a bad day. And so that's encouraging to know
Yeah.
that like when she gets off work, she's not bothered by the things that happened at work because that's a big thing for me. So I tell her when you clock out, you are with your family. That is for me to worry about. Everything after that clock that I signed up for this. This is my business, and so I got to deal with it. If it's off the clock, you take your time off. Because best believe if I was in your shoes and I was an employee, I would have to let it go and be with my family because that is what is most important. We're working for our family. We're working for our life, you know. And so changing that language in your head, it just changes everything that happens in front of you over time. And it might not be big right away. It's small beginnings most of the time, you know.
Oh yeah, it's definitely incremental. I mean, I haven't stopped learning and growing in this work since I started in it, what, 24, 23, 24 years ago. I, you know, I don't know how often. I would say a month doesn't go by that I don't have it like, oh my gosh, like how I'd been looking at something or how I could now look at something that I didn't look at, that I didn't see it before, right?
Yep.
It just continues to grow and develop. And you said something about, well, not just starting out small, but what's happened for me, and I know for you as well, is you're eager or at least willing to take on bigger challenges because there's this sense of, oh, I got this,
Yep.
right? Or I may not know how it's going to turn out, but I know that I can come out the other side, having learned something, a better person, the experience will have been worthwhile, that kind of a thing. And that's that's living from the future, versus living from the past. We talked a little bit about the past and the future, but just like looking out into the future is like, this may look really difficult. I may not want to do this, or I don't want to have to deal with this, but I can't, either I can't put it off any longer, or I'm just not going to be able to avoid it. Well, maybe there will be something on the other side of it that I'll be so glad that I will have experienced. And that at least makes it, there's something appealing about going through that, through that process, whether it's dealing with an upset client or, reprimanding an employee or whatever that may be, right? And things in personal life, but just looking at it as, all right, anything that I'm, upset or angry or, angsty about, that's an opportunity for me to grow. And I'm willing to grow. I want to grow because if I don't grow, my business won't grow.
That's
It's
right.
going to stay where it is or get worse, right? Because
Yeah.
the competition will rise. I mean, things are always, changing, right? The only constant is change is an old quote. I mean, just look at your life. I mean, look back. Like I said, there's no way I thought I would end up here,
Yeah. Same
right?
thing with
But
me.
it was the journey that I took that at some point I said, oh, all right. I love business. I love people. And even more, I love seeing people succeed.
Yeah.
I love the expression on people's faces when they have those aha moments or they say, you won't believe what just happened.
Yeah.
Right. And, that's one thing that this work provides is that sense of you won't believe it. It's a
Yeah.
miracle. It's that sort of surprise. Well, when you get outside the box, get outside of what you know into the whole vast world of what could be, things show up that, amaze you and surprise you because they're just outside of what you kind of know, which, as I said before, it's limited.
Yep.
It's limited to your own experience and your education and what you have had. So that's the most gratifying part of it.
Yeah, and I think I liked your slogan. I think when I first met you, your slogan, you always said, help business owners get off the treadmill. Because when you're on that treadmill, you're running real hard. You only got a few settings in front of you, like, and then, you're just running. You're just working yourself really hard, and you ain't going nowhere. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
might be getting fit and everything, but you're not really going anywhere versus going
Yeah,
and taking
yeah,
a
that's so
run.
great. So there's another part of that. Get off the treadmill and go somewhere,
Yeah, there you go. And go
right? I mean,
somewhere.
the treadmill's fine, right? It's working,
Yeah.
everything's smooth running. Yeah, I'm huffing and puffing, but it's cool.
And you're still
And
looking
it's
at all the
and it
walls.
and it's huh? Wow, I don't seem to be going anywhere.
Exactly. All
Working
that
real
work.
hard, paying the bills.
Yeah.
It's good, but
Yeah.
gosh, I got an itch, right?
Yeah.
And that's usually when people show up is they've got that itch or they run into that thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that I just don't know how to get there,
Yeah.
right? And it's getting really outside of your past experience and what you know into all right, let me, take a leap of faith or whatever that is. And we all do this when we start businesses, right?
Yeah.
We do that with or without somebody at our side. We do it because we see something. We see something. We see a way of living our lives, looking into the future here. This is what creates that kind of action is like I see it and I can't not go for it.
Yeah.
I can't not find out. Right. I can't I often use the example when I propose to my wife, right? I mean, for I'll speak for myself and probably many others that's like the most challenging question you can ask somebody in your entire life is
Yeah.
will you marry me?
Yeah.
Because what if the answer is no? I mean, then what? It's like you're really putting yourself at risk. So why do you do something like that? Why? Because you see the possibility of a future where you live in that life of, spending the rest of your lives together, starting a family, whatever that looks like, that you just can't not ask the question. You can't not take that action because you wouldn't what would I do with myself if I didn't ask that question,
Yeah.
So it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely encouraging because that's how it works. You got to take that leap of faith and believe that it's gonna work out, even if it don't. You know what I mean? If it don't, you just got to know that hey, for me, I always think God is in control and He is sovereign, and I don't have to worry about that, and I'm still gonna keep trucking along and doing what I'm supposed to do, and help grow my business. I want to give everyone a little taste of our sessions that we have monthly. Can you explain being complete with something and what that means exactly?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's many different aspects of it. Earlier, you mentioned about talking with Melissa and having her say, "I'm complete. I'm complete with the day." Best way to look at what it is to be complete with something is to start with what does it look like to be incomplete with something. So if you've ever had a situation where something's gone wrong in maybe even just in a conversation with somebody where maybe it turned into an argument or a disagreement of some sort and then you left, it was over, whatever happened, it ended, and maybe you're a little upset about it or angry about it, and you hope maybe you don't run into that person, or you're at a party. The kind of thing is if you're at a party and that person walked in, you'd be like you'd cringe or want to walk away, or maybe you want to go punch them in the face or something like that. That's what it's like to be incomplete, particularly with an individual. When something's happened, there's been a conversation, and it hangs out with you, it stays with you, is what it's like to be incomplete. Or maybe you set a goal for yourself and you didn't reach that goal, and it kind of lingers on like, I guess I'm just not good enough, or I guess I'm it's not meant to be, or something like that. It lingers on, it hangs out with you, it's there, and it influences how you might go about it. Again, if you were to see that person in a party, you might avoid that person. You might go out of your way to avoid running into that person again by avoiding an event or some party that they might be at or something like that. Or again, it might have you not reach, in terms of a goal, it might not have you reach so high because you don't want to be disappointed. You don't want to have that feeling happen again. And what it does is it puts a dampening effect on what you think is possible for yourself in the terms of a goal, but also on how you might express yourself in terms of that other person, or in how you might talk about that person to even to somebody else. Right? There's a lot of ramifications for it. In terms of like your day, you mentioned letting or having Melissa be complete with the day so that she can be present with her family. And that's really what it's about. Is if you've got this piece taking up your conscious energy, then it makes it difficult to be with what you're actually doing now, which is being with your family, or doing one of the many other things you might be doing, just driving home, or working on another aspect of your business. But part of your attention is over here. So what we say about that is, if it's not complete, it's actually now it's in your future, right? And so it's this thing taking your focus, taking your attention, impacting how you view the future in a way that limits your future. I know that sounds really conceptual, perhaps, but what it is a matter of clearing everything out of the way so that the future looks wide open, right? Again, that's sort of conceptual, but it's the kind of future that, well, anything's possible kind of a future. So how do I get complete with a person, right? Or maybe the situation is, a customer calls and they're dissatisfied with the service, or some aspect of it. I mean, we've all been there, right? It happens. How do we how do we get complete with that? And then what also comes up is, what we want is for our customers to be complete with the experience, because if they're not complete with the experience, then their willingness to call you back in the future is going to be limited, because there's a little stain on the relationship, you might say, that hasn't been cleaned up. When that gets cleaned up, then it's put back in the past, where it doesn't impact the future. Yeah, it's something that happened, but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't gnaw at me. It doesn't nag at me. So, it can be a long explanation about how you do that, but just knowing that, all right, how can I, like, what I need to do is get complete with my day or with that situation, so that I can be fully present for, fully available to whatever comes next, which is whether it's setting that goal, interacting with that person, or even calling that person back, because sometimes we're incomplete, perhaps with a customer, and we're a little bit leery about calling them back. So what we've got to do is, like, all right, that happened, it happened, it's in the past. It doesn't need to influence how I go about the future. So I'm just going to call the person. I might even acknowledge, that our last conversation. I'm sorry for the way that it went. It didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. Can we start again? Or is there anything you need to say about that? And often it's being in communication with somebody and just saying, what is there for you to say about it? And that's having them be complete by communicating about it. Um, because just recognizing what it is, it's incomplete, it's going to impact my future. I can't let it be there anymore. And so it might be a matter of, in many cases, just a matter of saying, look, I'm complete with it. It's language, right? I'm complete with it. I'm not going to let it bother me anymore. And then if it comes up again, repeating that, I'm complete with it. I'm not going to let it bother again, because I'm not willing to be slowed down by that. Might be something as simple as that. Now, some are more complicated, right? And it may take some one-on-one coaching to work through that. But just knowing that I can be complete with anything, so that my future again is wide open. I'm not shying away from anything. I'm not avoiding anything, right? I'm free to breathe. I'm free to be, right? I can be myself in this situation, and that's what's gonna carry the day.
And I think for me, you know, getting complete sometimes meant being complete about being incomplete.
Mm,
Like I remember what you told me to do was write down everything I'm incomplete with. Just sit and think about everything you're incomplete with. And I actually had a very hefty list. And I had to go through all those. And you said, all right, now you go through all those and find out what do you need to do to get complete with it. If it
hmm
is it something that, if it is a person that you can't reach out to, or somebody that has passed away or something like that, that you maybe didn't get to say something to that person.
mm.
Being complete with being incomplete can be complete, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
right,
And so,
right. That's a great
sometimes,
example.
some
If somebody's no longer part of your life, and you wish you had said something, right? Or, whether they're living or not,
yeah,
just like, okay, well, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to say what I want to say. So I'm just going to have to be complete with that.
yep. And so going through all those for me was also showing me what all was really there. You know what I mean? I think that
Yes,
was the most inspiring thing for me, was like, wow, look at all these things that are bothering me. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And then going through all those and checking them off, that like I'm getting these complete. It felt so good. And then it was just like a big huge relief. And then it was like boom, everything started, I started being able to think about goals for the business, and like all these
Hmm.
other things started
Hmm.
showing up, and it was incredible. So that's why I feel like being complete is really important. What I wanted to talk about on the show. I know it's something that you're talking with Robert and Melissa both about, and I think I think Robert's definitely already there with the being complete with things. He's really good at being complete with things now,
That's good to hear.
and Melissa's still working through it though. She's still
I've been
she
working with Robert longer, so
yeah,
no, I'll give him that.
yeah,
So
you have. But Melissa's doing very well with it, and it's cool how she's just noticing little things outside. She was telling me, definitely since she's been working with me, it's definitely improved her life. Just her line of thinking and everything. And that was my intention, was to say, hey, like, you know, you can be a good employee. Like, you don't have to stress. I know the last job was very, very stressful. It doesn't have to be that way. It's not that serious at the end of the day. We work as a team. And I was telling her, same thing I told Robert. I'm not trying to change you, but Jim can definitely help you with your mind and being able to get your mind right for work and for your personal life too.
yeah.
And so she's going through being complete, and she's still sometimes working after hours, and I'm like, don't do that. Like, you got to let it go. Turn that phone off. It can wait till tomorrow. It's just window cleaning. It can wait till tomorrow. And if it can't wait till tomorrow, it should be my responsibility at that point, because I'm the business owner, and so that's just how it goes. But yeah, just being complete has definitely helped a lot. And I also want to talk about something we talked about our last session, which was last week. I think it was last week, something like that. But we talked about context in our last session.
Okay.
Can you explain what bringing context into the conversation is, and what context is, and how it can help our thinking?
Great question. That's a good one. There was something about what you were just saying that seemed like a good tie-in. I don't know, it escapes me kind of just a moment ago, but it's the idea that, oh, you were talking about getting things complete. We go through life carrying around a load of incompletions. I'll just say that. There's a weight to it, and we don't realize it because it's just part of the way life is, right? And we get used to it. We get like, oh, yeah, it's just the way life is, right? We have grudges and we have things, we have failures, and we feel bad about them, and blah 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 blah. And it's just, well, it's not so, right? Consider that that's not the way it has to be, right? I think I tried to demonstrate that in many parts of this call. And so context is a little bit like that, in that we have a context, and I'll explain the definition of that word in a moment. But let me start by saying we have a context for everything that we do and everything that we say. And what that means is, let me give it an example. So I'm doing some classes with the local community college, with not classes like for students, but with the business side, right, with people that work there. And I started the session and it was the very first day, very first session. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. I knew a couple people, but I started with, "Why are you here today?" And I was hoping, and somebody fulfilled on my wish, that they would say, "Because I was told to be." Chuckles, chuckles, chuckles. And I knew full well a lot of people there, because they were pretty much told to be. They didn't volunteer for the program, or maybe they did, but some of them didn't. Some of them were told, "We're putting you into this leadership program." And so what I went from there is, I said, okay, if your context for being here is that I was told to be here, how useful and valuable do you think this session might be for you? And compare that with, if you had a context of, I might learn something today that changes my life forever, then how attentive, how involved, how engaged in the program are you going to be? Now, there's not a right answer for which context you should have, but there's just looking at, well, which one is going to make this the best use of my time, right? I could sit here and be, well, I have to be here. When's it going to be over? Do I have to take notes? Are you going to be giving me handouts on this? Do I have to do homework? Right? Those kinds of questions will come up in, I have to be here. I don't have any choice,
Yeah.
right? Versus, what would it be like to have the context of, this I might actually learn something that will change my life forever. I mean, I know that's a stretch, right? But I think you get the idea. There's some contrast there.
Right.
So in every situation, we go in with a context, and the context is like a container. Think of it as like the container for the content. There's context, and there's the content, which is what you say, what you do, what you're thinking about a particular situation, and the content, or the context rather, shapes the content. Meaning it gives you sort of the language that you use, the mood that you have, all of that. So, and how you perform, or how you behave in a particular situation. So if the context for a ringing phone is, oh, it's an interruption, it's bothering me, that's going to impact how you are on that phone call, versus the context of, oh, opportunity calling, right? So you actually get to create the context once you recognize the context that might be there by default, meaning you didn't choose the context, it just showed up when the phone rang, or
Yeah.
showed up when somebody told you to be there at a particular time. So the by recognizing the context you have, and then choosing one that is more enlivening for you, more engaging for you, has you want to do that thing, or has you want to do your best at that thing, or has you want to get complete with that, like changing the context of calling back an upset client or an angry customer. My context for the situation is that they are a satisfied customer. I can't do anything about what went wrong, but I can have them be complete with it, be satisfied, and have them want to continue using my services.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's definitely helped me try to think about. And I've got to bring it. I still haven't had a chance to bring it up with Melissa yet, but that's one of my things. One of my action items that I wrote down is bringing context into the conversation, and I think that it's definitely crucial, and being able to point the conversation in the right direction, and not thinking like we're talking about like having meetings sometimes can be like, oh man, I really just want to get this meeting over, and I think having that context can make the meeting different. But if you go into it with hey, this is going to be an awesome meeting. This is going to change my life, and this is really you're going to go into it taking notes and doing, acting a lot different than you would with the different context. And so that has really helped me out a lot. And so that's something that I'm actually working on for the next month, is going to be bringing context into the conversation with Melissa and with Robert. And then whenever you talk to them, you kind of explain context a little bit better than I do. So, so I think that that's how that works very very well. And yeah, so let's go ahead. I got another spin wheel we're gonna do, and then we got one more question for you, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So,
Sounds great.
all right, cool. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel from windowcleaner.com, WCR. All right. Congratulations, whoever you are. You have won the Zero J2. Now, how we're going to do this one, that one, there was no question. So that one you'll have to come to the live show, and we will spin for it on the live show. So this is what you will win. So you got to come to the Off the Clock show right after this to see who wins the Zero J2 poll. So congratulations. We'll see who won that. And you also won a t shirt. So congratulations. All right, so I got one more question, and then we're going to wrap up for tonight. And so, what is the most common fear in a newer business owner, and how can they conquer that fear?
Let's see. One of the challenges that most early on business owners face is hiring their first employee is often a real challenge for them. I remember one person in particular, and I know there's others in this situation, but there's a face that comes to mind. I won't mention his name, but the dilemma was, how am I going to pay that person to do that job? I'm just making enough to pay my own salary, kind of a thing. And I said, well, um, you're going to have the fire under your butt to get out and drum up some new business, aren't you?
Yeah.
And just that change then had him like, oh yeah, I guess so, because you I get the dilemma. Is like I've got to do the work that's in front of me for one thing, and how am I going to be able to pay somebody if I now have to split the profit between me and another employee? Well, she's going to get out there and drum something up, right? You're going to make something happen, which when you really look at, well, let's see, I mentioned the idea of you being on a ladder and answering the phone. It's like, well, maybe my vision for down the road is that I'm not the one that's doing all of the work, but that, oh, this is actually a normal point in my business. It's a normal a point to change. It's part of my plan. If my plan is to have a series of employees or some employees under me, that I'm managing, so that I can go out and grow the business, so that I can go out and build my brand by networking, things like that. Well, then it's just a natural progression of my business. So having that plan, having the vision of like, what do I want my business to look like? What do I want my life to look like? And then how does my business support that? And knowing what those turning points are, like, well, I have 0 employees, so I got to have one, and then after a couple of years, I'll have, or a couple of months, or whatever it is, I'll then have two, and then three, and then maybe I bring in a manager at some point, so that I'm not tied to managing and training them, that kind of a thing. So hiring the first employee is a common first challenge, I think, that many business owners face. Can you tell me what it was for you, Joshua? What was the
That
biggest thing that you
that
faced?
that was for me definitely hiring my first employee because my line of thinking was they're gonna come in and screw it all up. They're not gonna be able to do it as good as me, and they're not gonna be able to perform the five quality service that I want, and that was probably the biggest fear for me. And then I got over that, and then I hired too quickly, and then hired had four guys going at one time. Learned my lesson on that. I learned that's not what you want to do. You don't
Yeah,
you don't want to just burn through people. And then that's when I realized it was definitely me and my line of thinking on why I wasn't being able to pass that up. But that was a huge fear that I wanted to conquer when I first
right.
started. Was I don't I'm freaking out about hiring. And I'm so glad I ended up hiring. Even going through all the bad employees, it definitely makes me appreciate my employees now, and also how to talk to them and how to treat them and how to what I mean? Like really just treat them like they're a team member. You know what I mean? You don't have to crack the whip all the time. I mean, you definitely want to make sure that everything's structured in line, but you don't have to like beat them down, over every little thing.
No, you
Things are
don't.
going to happen. You take those as opportunities to let them learn. That's what I try to do. Whenever Melissa does something wrong, I say, hey, don't let it bother you. Just take it. What did we learn from it? That's all I always say. Even with Robert, what did we learn from this, Robert? You know what I mean? Like, what did we learn from you leaving the pole at the job? What did we learn from the screen door was not the correct size? Like, what did we learn? You know what I mean? And there's always a lesson to be learned during those mistakes. And not to say that's not going to happen again, but it does help when you present it that way and not be so angry. Because I'm a human being and I tend to want to be like, why did you do that? Like, I can't believe you would do that. What do I need to do to make you realize you should not be doing that? You know what I'm saying? And
How
then
many times do I have to tell
how many
you?
times? How do I need to say it? You know what I mean? Those are the different things that I have to like. I think in my head when I'm freaking out about a situation, then I got to snap out of it and be like, all right, look, this is part of the business. This is part of what I have to deal with. I got to deal with it like this. So
Part of the journey.
part of the
Yeah.
journey. But I thank you so much, Jim. I really appreciate it. That is all for tonight. If you'd like more information from Jim, you can email him at jim@effectiveactionconsulting.com. Right? Is that
That's
right?
it.
Okay,
You
cool.
got it.
All right, and maybe he can help you out with getting your mind right for your business. He's definitely helped me. But make sure you go back to my channel for the live show off the clock to see who won this poll, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. So if you won from Window Magic Supply, the first prize, make sure to email me right away. And when you get that prize, take a selfie style picture with that so that I can send it to Window Magic Supply. And then whoever wins this on the next show, just make sure to go back and leave a review after using it and let WCR know, windowcleaner.com know what you thought about the tool. That would help them out greatly. So I appreciate all y'all's time. Jim, thank you so much for being with us today.
Joshua, thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation, and to y'all watching and or listening, thank you for your attention and your time. I hope it was useful for you.
Yep, man. Jim, I know it was because it's been very, very helpful for me and my business. And a lot of these guys that are watching the show consistently are newer. They're taking notes. They're very serious about it because it's just free information. Most of the time, people would have to pay for some of this information that we are given for free. So we're taking our time here, and I know it's greatly appreciated because I see all the different comments and everything each week. I hope that you can maybe be in the comments, but if not, I totally understand. But the show does air every Friday at 7 o'clock. So if you can be in the comments, I think it's next week, um, the following week after that, then this show will air. So next week will be 54. The week after that will be 55. So if you can be in the comments, that would be greatly appreciated. And that way, if someone has a question or something like that, you can just be able to answer right away. So well,
Absolutely.
I hope y'all enjoyed the show. We'll see you on Off the Clock. Make sure to go to Off the Clock because we want to see who wins this, and I might have a cash giveaway. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it the week before or not. But all right, y'all have a blessed week. We'll see y'all next show. Peace out.